When you use a verb or an action to build a sentence, you have to make it sound right, and you need to make sure that the words around it also sound right. For example, him ran to the store doesn't sound right. Neither does her give it to he. To make it sound right, we need to use the right nouns and pronouns, and we have to change the verb correctly. When you change the verb to fit the sentence, this is called conjugation. It comes from Latin, con, together, jugum, yoke. No, not that yoke, this yoke. You use it to join cattle together, although in this case you're joining a stem and an ending together. Let me explain. In English, if we want to fix the sentence, him ran to the store, to make it happen in the present, we would write, he runs to the store. In Spanish, él corre a la tienda. In English, the verb doesn't change much depending on who does it. For example, I run, you run, he runs, we run, they run. The word run doesn't really change very much. But in Spanish, the word changes based on who's doing it and when they're doing it. For example, if I run, yo corro. You run, tú corres. We run, nosotros corremos. And if I just want to use the verb by itself, the meaning doesn't change. Corro by itself still means I run. How does this work? Basically, Spanish verbs normally finish with the letters AR, ER, or IR when they are in the infinitive. Like this, hablar, correr, vestir. This means to talk, to run, to dress. As you can see, the word to and something else. Let's do something simple like take the word correr. This means to run. Let's say I want to say I run. I is yo in Spanish, and to run is correr. But if I write yo correr, it means I to run. We didn't conjugate it correctly. To conjugate it, we take the infinitive verb and chop off its ending, then put the right ending. Well, what ending do we pick? It depends on two things. Who's doing the action and when did they do it? Here, one person, myself, is doing the running. It's me, so I run. And they're doing it right now, so it's run, not ran, and it's not will run. In Spanish, we put yo corro. Take off the ER and put an O. But where did I get that O from? Easy, the chart. Every verb has a bunch of charts that tell you which endings to use, and a lot of beginners use these charts to use the right conjugation. The good news is that 90% of the verbs follow the same patterns, so if you memorize a few charts, you can successfully conjugate hundreds of words, and even if you're not completely sure, you can make a pretty good guess, which is fine. You're going to mess up, and learning a language is about trial and error. And not every word follows the pattern. These are called irregular verbs, and there's quite a few of them. But for now, let's focus on conjugating verbs in the present. Again, there are three types of Spanish verbs, AR, ER, and IR endings, and they each have their own chart. To conjugate the sentence, she talks. She is easy, it's ella, but she talks takes a little bit more work. First, we find the type of verb. The verb or the action in this sentence is talks. She talks. The infinitive of talks is to talk. In Spanish, that's the word hablar. This one is an AR verb because it finishes with, you guessed it, AR. Next, we chop off the ending, leaving the stem. Here, the stem is HABL, habl. Third, we use the correct chart, the AR chart. Fourth, we pick the correct tense and person. She's one person, so singular, and she's doing the talking right now, so it's present tense. Fifth, you plug in the right ending. In this case, it's an A. So, ella habla. Let's try one more. He runs to the store. What's the verb in this sentence? I'll give you a second. It's runs, so look up to run. In this case, it's correr. It's an ER verb because it ends with ER. Then find the present tense ER chart and plug in the correct person. He. Él corre. So it's él corre, and you can look up the rest of the words or memorize them. To the store. A la tienda. This is a very basic introduction, and there's plenty more that can be said, but for now, these are the steps to conjugate a verb. First, figure out the type of verb, AR, ER, IR. Maybe it's irregular. Second, take off the ending. And third, use the right chart and plug in the person to find the ending. This is the basic way to correctly form verbs in Spanish. If it's an AR verb, it finishes with AR. If it's an ER verb, it finishes with ER. If it's an IR verb, it finishes with IR. Here are some examples. You find the chart, you identify the person doing the action, take off the ending, put the right ending. Sure, there are also irregular verbs, like we talked about briefly, and those you just have to memorize because the charts don't match the rest of the AR, ER, and IR verbs. But there are a few of those, and they're really not as bad as they sound. I hope this tutorial helped you out a little bit. That's all for now.